In December 2025, OpenAI's headquarters felt like a pressure cooker on the brink of an explosion. I am Denise Dresser, and after scaling Salesforce and running Slack, I've seen every hype cycle in Silicon Valley. But this time was different. I walked into those offices knowing that the world's most transformative technology was sitting on their servers, completely stalled. It wasn't a failure of code, but a total breakdown of how we build businesses, way into the hands of the people who need it most. I was brought here to change the narrative from viral curiosity to sustainable, enterprise grade value. The world sees the headlines about our research breakthroughs, but they do not see the math behind the curtain. We are burning billions of dollars every single month to train the next generation of intelligence. My mandate is simple, but the execution is anything but. I have to turn this research powerhouse into a machine that can scale for millions of companies. And by the way, the best part of this transition is that we are only just beginning to see what this scale looks like. Sit back, grab a glass of water, and let us talk about what it actually takes to build the future. When I started as the first chief revenue officer, the landscape was changing beneath our feet. We were facing an intense internal pressure, what Sam Altman called a code red. Competitors like Google were moving fast, and their latest models were hitting benchmarks that forced us to reevaluate our own pace of development. People look at OpenAI and see a titan, but inside these walls, it feels more like a startup fighting for its life. We had over 1 million business customers, from giants like Walmart and Morgan Stanley to smaller firms trying to optimize their workflows. But potential is not the same as durability. We needed to ensure that these companies were not just testing our tools, but relying on them for their daily operations. I spent my first 100 days listening to our enterprise clients. They did not just want a chatbot, they wanted a platform. They wanted something that could integrate with their stacks, secure their data, and drive measurable productivity. They told me that with the right integration, their employees were saving 40 to 60 minutes every single day. That is not a gimmick. That is a massive shift in how work gets done. But to sustain that, I needed to broaden our horizons. You might be wondering about our relationship with Microsoft. It is the foundation upon which everything we do is built. They have provided the capital and the infrastructure that allowed our research to flourish on a massive scale. But in the world of high stakes technology, independence is a strategic necessity. When you rely on a single partner, you inherit their constraints as much as their advantages. Diversifying where we deploy and how we operate isn't a betrayal of our past. It is a commitment to our future. We need to be wherever our customers work, and that means pushing for a multi-cloud ecosystem where our models can thrive regardless of the underlying hardware or infrastructure vendor. It is about architectural freedom. If we want to lead the next decade of artificial intelligence, we cannot afford to be trapped in any single silo. This is where things get interesting because this pivot isn't just about contracts. It is about speed. By April of 2026, we underwent a significant leadership reshuffle. Our longtime COO, Brad Lightcap, shifted his focus toward special projects. He was the firefighter, the man who handled the most complex operational fires during our formative years. With his transition, the commercial reins passed further into my hands. It was a clear signal that the company had matured past the phase of purely experimental growth and was moving into a phase of institutional discipline. Navigating this shift required a level of focus that is frankly rare in the tech world. We were fighting against giants, battling an incredibly high burn rate, and trying to redefine the very nature of software, all while under the constant gaze of the public and the regulators. There were moments of doubt, certainly. Analysts were talking about our $100 billion fundraising history and suggesting we had less than a year of runway left. I remember looking at those reports on my screen. It is easy to look at a burn rate and call it terrifying, but it is just as easy to forget that we are not building a local bakery. We are building the infrastructure of the 21st century. Okay, now for the one I have been saving for you. Most people focus on the headlines about who we are partnering with or which models are trending on social media. They miss the real revolution happening in the enterprise sector. The real shift is happening in how we are architecting our enterprise API to be agnostic. My goal is to make sure that a Fortune 500 company can run our models on whatever infrastructure they have already bought. By decoupling our models from specific cloud platforms, we are effectively becoming the neutral layer of the entire internet. Think about what that does to our competitive advantage. It means Google can have their models and Microsoft can have their versions, but we become the ubiquity. We become the utility that powers the systems that power the world. When you see it this way, the competition stops being about who has the best chatbot and starts being about who provides the most essential layer of intelligence for every other software vendor. That is how you turn a research project into a $1 trillion industry. People often ask me what it is like to be a woman in the most intense boardroom in the world. I don't see it as a story of barriers, though I am acutely aware of the history. I see it as a story of efficiency. When you have a mission that costs billions to execute, you don't have time for the ego or the posturing that often slows down these massive legacy companies. You look at the data, you look at the potential, and you make the move that secures the future. I learned that during my years at Salesforce. I saw how a platform could scale if you built it for the user first. That is exactly what we are doing here. We are building an enterprise grade system that isn't just smart, it is reliable. It has to be, because when our clients hook their entire businesses into our API, they aren't looking for a toy. They're looking for the next phase of their own digital transformation, and we are going to be there to provide it. Let that sink in for a moment. We aren't just selling a model. We are selling a future where every employee has a research assistant, a code monkey, and a creative partner available at the click of a button. The scale of that vision is why the burn rate exists. It is the cost of admission to the most significant technological transition in human history. Every dollar we spend today is an investment in that universal deployment. We have moved beyond the hype. We are in the building phase now. When I look at our pipeline, I don't see risk. I see inevitable adoption. There you go. Three real shifts in how OpenAI is positioning itself for the future: the transition to enterprise scale, the strategic push for multi platform infrastructure, and the maturation of our leadership to support this gargantuan commercial effort. The third point alone is what will eventually set us apart from every other player in the AI race. Once you see the value of being the infrastructure layer, you realize that the partnership dynamics are just the surface. The real story is the integration of our intelligence into every piece of software on the planet. If you found this perspective helpful, hit the subscribe button. I am going to continue pulling back the curtain on how we are building this company. We have a lot more ground to cover. And honestly, the best part is only just beginning. There is a whole new way of working coming to your office, your home, and your pocket. Stick around and let us watch it happen together.